For your assignment this week, you need to read Judith Jarvis Thompson's A Defense of Abortion. I've included the PDF in the homework assignment itself, so the reading is not in the book. Okay, in order to help you on the assignment, I wanted to kind of walk through some of the background for Thompson's argument in defense of abortion, and then give you some guidance in laying out the argument and then giving a response to the argument. Okay, so pro-lifers, that is people who think that abortion is morally not okay, morally impermissible, they rely on the claim that the fetus is a human being and maybe even a person. They use this to show that abortion is morally impermissible, that is morally not okay. So Thomson is a pro-choicer, and that means that she thinks that in many cases of pregnancy, it's up to the woman, morally speaking, to determine whether or not to have an abortion. So Thomson, she grants the claim by pro-lifers that the fetus is a human being and even a person. So most pro-choicers will deny either that the fetus is a human being or that the fetus is a person. And then they try to argue for the permissibility of abortion based on the fact, or the alleged fact, that the fetus is not a human being, or the alleged fact that the fetus is not a person. Well, Thompson takes a different strategy. She wants to grant the pro-lifer their claim that the fetus is a human being and even a person, and even that the fetus has the same moral status as an adult human person. So she's granting all of that to the pro-lifer, but she still wants to argue that abortion is sometimes permissible. Even if the fetus is a full-fledged member of the human race, full-fledged person, has the moral status as an adult human person, she says abortion is still sometimes okay, morally okay. So she argues that some abortions are still permissible since the morality, she says, the morality of abortion does not depend on the nature of the fetus, but its relation to its mother. So, the pro-lifers, they'll focus on the nature of the fetus. They'll say something like, biologists say that the fetus is a human being. I mean, that certainly seems to be true, that the fetus is a human being. Or they'll say that philosophy tells us that the fetus is a person, and they'll give their reasons for thinking that's the case. So they're focused on what is the fetus, exactly. And Thompson, she tries to sidestep that by not focusing on the nature of the fetus, but its relation to its mother. And then she says that because of the special relationship it has to its mother, abortion is sometimes morally permissible. So to get moral intuitions going, she gives a thought experiment, and here it is from her article. It's the violinist case. You wake up in the morning, and you find yourself in bed with a famous unconscious violinist. He has a fatal kidney ailment, and the Society of Music Lovers has found that you alone have the right blood type to help. They have therefore kidnapped you, and the violinist's circulatory system was plugged into yours, so your kidneys can be used to extract poisons from his blood. The director of the hospital tells you, hey, look, we're sorry that the Society of Music Lovers did this to you. We never would have permitted it if we had known. But still, they did it. And the violinist now is plugged into you. To unplug you would be to kill him. But look, after all, it's only 9 months. By then he will have recovered from his ailment, and he can be safely unplugged from you. Okay, so that's the setup. You've got this bizarre scenario where you wake up, you don't know what's going on, You don't have any recollection of being kidnapped or anything like that, but you find yourself kidnapped and in the hospital, hooked up to this violinist. The violinist is using your blood to your kidneys to extract poisons from his blood, and the deal is that if you don't stay plugged in to the violinist for 9 months, then he will die. If you stay plugged in for 9 months, he will recover and he can be unplugged from you. Okay, that's the case. So the question is, do you have a moral obligation? Are you morally required to stay plugged in to the violinist? Can you, morally speaking, can you unplug? Is it morally okay to unplug? Or must you stay for the full 9 months? So, Thompson thinks that one would not be obligated to remain hooked up to the violinist. Maybe you would be doing a good deed. Maybe you would be going above and beyond to stay hooked up to the violinist. But she thinks you're not required, or you're not morally obligated to remain hooked up. It's just asking too much of you, morally speaking. So I want to know what you think of this case. Are you morally obligated or morally required to stay plugged in to the violinist? A, do you think it's permissible, that means morally okay, to unplug? B, do you think it's impermissible, that means morally not okay to unplug? Or C, you're not sure? I'll let you think about that one. Okay, so Thompson's argument, remember, it's an analogical argument. That's why we've included it in this section of the course, because we're dealing with inductive analogical arguments. Remember that here's the form of analogical arguments. That x and y have characteristics A, B, C in common. X has characteristic K, therefore y has characteristic K. Okay, so there you go. That's the form of analogical arguments. In Thompson's argument, when you fill it out in the homework, it needs to fit these characteristics, or this form. So you need to find what two objects is she comparing, or things, or people, or whatever. What characteristics do they have in common? What one characteristic does the first object or person or event or thing have that we know about? And then we can infer in the second object or person or thing. Okay, so here's the important things you need to draw out. What two things or what two cases are being compared? What characteristics do these cases have in common? And what characteristic does one case have that is being inferred in the other case? And then you need to respond to Thompson's argument. And how do you do that? Well, we follow the strategies, the criteria for responding to analogical arguments that I laid out in last week's lectures. So you need to compare the violinist case to the case of pregnancy. Can you see any relevant disanalogies? So here you would be responding to the argument in the sense that you would be trying to show that it's a bad argument. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying it is a bad argument. I'm just saying in this part of the exercise, you would be attempting to show that the argument's bad. So do you see any relevant disanalogies? Can you think of any counter-analogies? And what consequences of Thompson's argument do you see that Thompson may not be willing to accept? So there you go. That's how that may give you some idea of how to do the homework for this week. And good luck with that.